I read this chapter, I was getting mad vibes. I was getting vibes from when I was reading Boku no Hero Academia chapter 89. And if you guys know what happened in 89, you know, that's when All For One came in and obliterated the place. That's the kind of thrill I got from this chapter when I was seeing Overhaul coming in like a savage. This was crazy. The way Overhaul was just coming in, dominating the place, talking like he's the, you know, well, he is the real deal, but like talking like he owns the place. It was savage. He comes up to Magne, taps him, and it's just like, bam, and it explodes. So, guys, this chapter was awesome. Not only was it lit, Horikoshi never ceases to amaze me with his villains. He never does, because when we first got the introduction to Overhaul's character, and we saw that gruesome thing, I don't know what he was doing, if he was burning that person alive, or something like that. Either way, we all loved his character design, and I remember when everyone saw that, everyone was just like, yo, this guy looks like he's gonna be an utter G. So, when we saw that happen, when we saw that gruesome, such graphic act, a lot of us were wondering if we're going to see something like that happen again. A lot of us were wondering if Horikoshi is going to be like, okay, maybe that was too much. Obviously, for Shonen Jump, we can't do something like that again. But no, he comes back in there like a G. Horikoshi comes in and brings Overhaul back in. Kills 2 people, by the way. Horikoshi kills off 2 characters. One which just basically got introduced in this chapter, and he was just done like that. A shield for Shigaraki, and I'll get to that in a second. But Magne comes in like a G. We even get a bit of backstory on him, so we even feel for him. We're like, you know what, Magne, I empathize with you. I've got a little bit of feelings. I feel sorry for you, bro. But then obviously Overhaul's just like, don't touch me, and then he just taps him, like literally one finger, and the man's upper body just evaporates. It not evaporates, so it just disintegrates. It's like vaporizes. It's so different. It's so stark contrast to Shigaraki's quirk. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, look at the similarities. But let's actually jot it down actually right now. Shigaraki's quirk, disintegration. His 5 fingers have to, whatever he touches with his 5 fingers, it disintegrates, and you see it slowly crumble. Whereas with this guy's quirk, I'm not really sure. Is it vaporized? Guys, please tell me in the comment below what you think about this guy's quirk. What is Overhaul's quirk? Because it seems like whatever he touches vaporizes. But I'm not really sure, because first of all he was wearing gloves, so and his 5 fingers didn't have to activate, so it's not like the same copy as Shigaraki. But I really do like how similar their quirks are. Now, with Overhaul, we find out a bit about his character. So Overhaul was the Yakuza, and he was one of the leaders of the 8 precepts of death. Now, we get a bit of world building in this chapter, and the world building is phenomenal. We get a bit more depth into the villain organization, how, you know, there used to be the Yakuzas, the organized crime, criminal organization from the other era, when All Might was first starting out. This is what Overhaul was a part of. That was the previous generation. So, Overhaul is still alive from that generation. There's not a lot of them, probably. I'm not sure if there'll be a lot of them still alive. Seems like All Might kind of put them down for the count. But, these villains are starting to arise, and I really like how Horikoshi did this, because I generally didn't see this coming. It's awesome because it shows it's very similar to Deku, the path that Shigaraki and Deku, they're both growing, and I'll get to that in a second because I want to continue on Overhaul about the world building. So Overhaul, he is one of the lead of the 8 precepts of death, I believe. He's a Yakuza. He's, you know, the real deal. He's got that old era crime. He's one of those old villains. So the people that you see now, like Dabi, Mr. Compress, Magne, all those villains twice, they got nothing on this guy. This guy's had experience. He's been there, you know, when it was starting. He seems like he was before the era of All Might. That was his generation, or just when All Might was literally in its prime, and All Might was, you know, starting to become a hero. So that's when Overhaul was running the place. That's when Overhaul was a villain. Now that All For One has been taken out, a lot of the villains are rising. So a lot of what we've been saying over these past couple of chapters, Horikoshi's literally pulled the rug out from underneath us. A lot of us has been thinking, okay, All Might's done. So the pillar of the symbol of peace has now been disintegrated. Now, because of that, the villains are going to rise from the ashes and they're going to overtake. But actually, no. It wasn't just All Might himself being a deterrent. It was actually All For One. The villains were more afraid of All For One than All Might's All Might himself. So it opens your eyes a bit to how villainous and how terrifying All For One actually is. We know how terrifying he is. Look when he was fighting All Might. Like I think the majority of us thought All Might was gonna die when All Might was fighting All For One. So it shows you that the reason for the villains, rising up is not because of All Might. It's actually because of All For One, and it's because that seat he's now been dethroned. The king who was sitting on his throne for centuries, which is All For One, he's now been taken off it and he is being defeated. So there's an empty space and someone wants to take that. Obviously Overhaul wants to take it. Shigaraki wants to take it. But a bit about Shigaraki is, what I loved about this chapter, it shows you how inexperienced Shigaraki is, and it links Shigaraki's development to Deku's. Now, Deku, as we know, Class 1A, they're all aspiring to be a hero, so they're still on their journey. This is similar to Shigaraki. Shigaraki hasn't fully grown yet. He's still learning. He's still on his path to becoming the villain. He's still on his path to becoming a villain. So as he is right now, he cannot be the next Kingpin. He cannot be the next symbol of evil, you could say. He can't be the next person that All For One was. He can't do that. One, he just doesn't have the experience, and he doesn't have what it takes as of now. That's why when we see Overhaul coming in, and Overhaul's just like, what's your plan? What do you have? What's your plan A? What's your plan B? What do you have? Have you got anything, like, what's your strategy? And Shigaraki's just like, wait, what? And obviously Shigaraki's playing goal is just to increase numbers, and then they can just go out and just destroy everything. Now that is a little bit naive. It can't just happen like that. Now, if you think about it, let's actually hypothetically simulate Shigaraki's goal. So Shigaraki's plan. So let's say Shigaraki, yeah, he gets loads of numbers. Let's say he has hundreds of villains in his alliance. Hundreds. These villains are no joke. They're strong, they're powerful, and he's got hundreds of them. Let's say he comes in and attacks society. He'll probably crumble this society. Maybe he'll destroy a vast amount of the city. A lot of civilians will be killed. But how can Shigaraki control all of that? How can he control all of those villains? What's he got in place for him to be like, I'm the leader, you guys follow me? See how Overhaul had his crew, and see how Shigaraki had it. The way that they led it was differently. Overhaul, now obviously Overhaul, it seemed like not like a cult, but they had blind devotion to the man. Obviously it's very reminiscent of a Yakuza kind of thing, because that's what Overhaul is. So I really do like how Horikoshi's kind of being faithful, how Overhaul's like the boss, and Overhaul has his like pawns, he's got his crew. So when he was just like, shield, someone comes in straight and takes the attack, puts his life out for Shigaraki. Now, I know a lot of people are wondering, okay, maybe they just didn't know Shigaraki's quirks, or maybe they didn't obviously go with the intent to die for him. I think they went in for the intent to die for them, because bear in mind, Overhaul, he's not a silly guy. He probably knew what Shigaraki's quirk was. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of villains do know what Shigaraki's quirk is, because Shigaraki has put himself out in the limelight many a time. Now, so I do think these villains, I think this person did jump in with intent to save Overhaul's life, and that's very, very blindly devoted. But I just love how Overhaul, he has such a presence where we didn't even see much of him with his crew, with the interaction, but you know he's the boss. You know he's the leader. The way that they all came in, the way that everything was controlled, and he even, first of all, by himself, he was there he took out Magnate and Mr. Compress. Like, it didn't seem like he was struggling. It didn't seem like he was stressing. But I'll get to a point about stressing in a second, with Overhaul. So he held his own ground. He's strong. And then obviously his team came in like that. He was quick and he was on it. And it shows you, it parallels to what a leader is with Shigaraki, because Shigaraki, he told Magnate not to do it. He told Mr. Compress, but they went straight in. They didn't listen to Shigaraki, so it shows you that his leadership's not up to scratch as it should be. They were brash. They went in head first. They didn't think it through. So even his pawns, even his members are inexperienced as well. But I don't think we shouldn't fault on Shigaraki. Shigaraki still is learning, so I don't think Shigaraki is 100%, like 0% 100% inexperienced. I don't think that. I do think he knows some stuff, because you could tell that he knew of Overhaul. When Overhaul first came in, he was just like, yeah, Sensei showed me a picture of him. He's the real deal. That's why, if you realize, Shigaraki, it was only to the last minute that he decided to come in to intervene. He didn't do it straight off. So I thought that was quite special. Now, it seems like Overhaul is a little bit of, you know, a germaphobe. It seems like he doesn't like to be touched by him. He doesn't like dust and that. So when the chapter first starts, it's just like, you know, it's, get me out of here. It's very unhygienic. It's very dusty. That's what he says. And then obviously when Mr. Compresses touches him, he gets like, you see the frustration on his face. He's just like, don't touch me. And then afterwards, he's kind of like rubbing his arm, and he's kind of like patting himself off. He says, I hate these kind of things. So I really do love his personality. I love his character. He seems like the person where he's like, he doesn't like to be around, he doesn't like physical contact kind of thing. Like, he hates germs, he hates blood, he hates like everyone's dirt getting on him. But obviously, if the need be, he will finish you, he will deal with you, just as he dealt with Magnate. And honestly, guys, my eyes, like, I'm still shocked from that. When Magnate went down, it was savage. It was unbelievably savage. It just makes me realize how like, they class 1A. When they see villains like this, honestly, they cannot beat them. They can't. I don't see how they can. But I was talking to my friends as well, and I see a lot of people have been talking about, you know, Tintin versus Overhaul. Like, how would that go down? But yeah, how would that go down? Let me know. But aside from that, at the end of the chapter, we do get to see Tintin and Deku, and it seems like Tintin, you know, as Mirio Togata. So I do think All Might's gonna tell them. I think All Might's gonna be like, okay, look, Deku, this was the person who would have received my quirk if it weren't for you, blah blah blah. Maybe they'll get a little bit more about that. I think we'll find out more about the sidekick, Sir, a bit more in the internship and stuff like that. So I think that'll be pretty cool. I do think with the way that it ended on this chapter, that a relationship is going to be formed between Deku and Mirio. Maybe Deku may learn some tricks of him. Maybe Mirio may take him under his wing, kind of. They'll be like quite close pals and stuff. I do think we'll see a lot more of Mirio Togata, definitely in the future. Now, let's get off of that, because we need to get back to the greatness, which was Overhaul and all this cohort stuff. So, yeah, I didn't say it at the start of my review, but Overhaul didn't have intentions of being led by Shigaraki. Overhaul had intentions of taking them, and he was saying, okay, look, you guys come underneath me. Join my organization. With your money, with your numbers, I will be the next kingpin. That's what Overhaul wanted. That was his plan. It seems legit. Now, this is the question I want to ask you. Do you think Shigaraki's going to go with him? Because hear me out. Now, we know Shigaraki. He's brash. He gets frustrated very easily. He's selfish. He wants to do things for himself. But notice the way that he's grown since after All For One's defeat. I think this is how it's going to happen. I think Shigaraki is going to call Overhaul, and I do think Shigaraki's either going to work underneath Overhaul for a temporary time, or going to work in alliance with him. I do think there's going to be something sorted out, like a negotiation or something like that. But this is what I know for sure. Well, not I know for sure, but I'm like 90% sure of what I think is going to happen. I don't think Overhaul's ever going to work underneath Shigaraki. I do see like sort of rivalry happening, because bear in mind, it's not just the rivalries which have been formed between heroes and villains. It's villains as well. A lot of people, they want to be the next kingpin, and you can see that in the underworld. The underworld's getting a little bit more noisier because All For One has left. So I do think we'll see a little bit more conflict between some villains, because they want to be the top. So Shigaraki does have a mountain to climb. He's got villains such as Overhaul to surpass as well. So this chapter was awesome in how it gave us a lot of world building with the villains. It gave us a lot of more depth into how much Shigaraki has to learn, how much Shigaraki has to grow. It definitely shows you that when Horikoshi wants to, it can get extremely graphic. So it's not your typical shonen, and that's what I really love about it. It gives you that kind of thrill that when you'll be reading the chapter, you'll be like, whoa, I did not see that happen. I did not see that happening. So yeah, guys, please tell me your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of this chapter? If you liked anything I had to say, please drop a like. That would be greatly appreciated. What are your thoughts with Magnate dying, and obviously Overhaul was one of his pawns, you could say. I love how Overhaul called the villain alliance the overhyped villains. I was just like, Overhaul, you're too savage. So damn savage. So yeah, guys, this chapter was awesome. Amazing ending as well. Set up for Mirio Sagata and Deku. And it was just awesome for the brutality that was Overhaul and his crew. Color page was lit as well. So Shinigami-san, tell me your thoughts in the comment below. Let's continue the discussion down below. And subscribe for weekly reviews of Boku no Hero. Let's keep this hype train going. Peace out. See ya.